Everyone knows what kind of girl you are. That was what my future mother-in-law said to me in front of 43 relatives, 2 days before my wedding, while my fiancé sat beside me looking like he was not sure anymore. She thought that line would finish me. She thought the family would hear it, nod, and watch me walk out alone. What she did not know was that for 8 months I had saved every message, every invoice, every screenshot, and every little contradiction she had dropped because she believed no one would ever check her. By the time the microphone was passed to me at the rehearsal dinner, the slideshow behind us was already loaded, and when her own texts appeared on the wall, the room finally understood exactly what kind of woman she was. Before we go any further, thank you for being here. Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from, because stories like this always remind me how many people have survived a family member who confused control with love. A quick note before I start. Some details have been changed for privacy and storytelling, but the emotions at the heart of it are real. Now, let me take you back to that room, because the part everyone remembers was not the first lie. It was just the first lie they finally checked. The rehearsal dinner was in the upstairs room of a little Italian restaurant in Brookline, the kind of place with low ceilings, framed black and white photos on the walls, and waiters who moved sideways between chairs because the tables were packed too close together. There were tea lights in small glass cups, white napkins folded like little tents, and a projector screen that my fiancé's cousin had set up for what everyone thought would be a cute childhood photo slideshow. On the left side of the room were my people, my parents, my younger brother, my best friend Layla, and 3 cousins who had flown in from Atlanta. On the right side were Daniel's people, and at the center of them was his mother, Gloria. Gloria wore a cream suit that night. Not white exactly. She was too careful for exactly. It was a pale ivory, the sort of shade that let her say, "Oh, don't be silly. It's beige," while still looking like she had dressed for a wedding altar. She had pearls at her throat and a little gold clutch on the table beside her plate. Every time someone laughed too loudly, she turned her head just enough to remind them they were in public. I remember all of that because my body was doing the strange thing bodies do when you know something is coming. My hands were cold, my knees were steady, my mouth felt dry, but my voice, when I tested it under my breath, sounded normal. Daniel sat beside me, his thumb tapping once against his water glass, then stopping, then tapping again. Across the room, his sister Mara looked at me and gave the smallest nod. Not encouragement exactly. Permission. Gloria did not know about that nod. She did not know Mara had spent the week at my apartment helping me sort screenshots by date. She did not know Daniel had finally read the messages she kept saying did not exist. She did not know that the file waiting on that laptop was not a tribute video. She only knew what had always worked for her. Speak first. Speak confidently. Make the room choose before anyone has time to think. But to understand how we got there, I have to go back almost a year, to the night Daniel proposed, and his mother hugged me like she had accepted a transaction. Daniel and I met at a neighborhood volunteer event, which sounds sweeter than it was. It was raining. The basement of the community center smelled like cardboard and wet coats. We were packing pantry boxes for families who had lost power after a storm, and Daniel was the guy who kept labeling boxes with a Sharpie that had gone dry. I finally handed him mine and said, "You can keep pretending that one works, or you can use a pen with ink in it." He laughed like he had been waiting all day for someone to say the obvious. That was Daniel. He was steady. He was a nurse practitioner at an urgent care clinic, the kind of man who carried granola bars in his backpack because someone was always forgetting lunch. I worked as a project coordinator for a construction firm, which meant my life was invoices, change orders, vendor calls, and spreadsheets with tabs nobody else wanted to touch. I was not flashy. I had a rented one-bedroom, a 10-year-old Honda, and a habit of keeping receipts for everything because my job had trained me that if it was not written down, it did not exist. That habit mattered later. At the time, it was just who I was. Daniel teased me about it the first month we dated, after I scanned the receipt from a dinner because the restaurant had double-charged his card. "You are terrifying," he said, watching me email the manager with the check number, timestamp, and exact amount. "No," I said. "I'm organized. There's a difference." He kissed my forehead and said, "Remind me never to be on the wrong side of your folders." I wish his mother had heard that. Daniel proposed the following May in the public garden, under a tree that had just dropped pink petals all over the path. My parents cried. Layla screamed so loudly that a jogger stopped. Daniel's father, who was divorced from Gloria and lived in Vermont, sent a long text full of exclamation marks. Gloria arrived 20 minutes late to the dinner afterward and made everyone stand so she could take a picture of herself putting her hands on my shoulders. "Look at my new daughter," she said, smiling at the phone. Then, in a lower voice only I could hear, she added, "We have a lot of work to do." I thought she meant wedding planning. I thought she meant guest lists and flowers and whether we were going to have a church ceremony. I had no idea she meant me. The first few weeks were normal enough that I still feel foolish when I think about how much I missed. Gloria was intense, but not openly cruel. She called often. She sent links to venues. She asked whether my parents were contributing and then laughed, softly, when I said Daniel and I planned to pay for most of the wedding ourselves. "That is very modern," she said. "Although in our family, we do things properly." "Properly how?" I asked. "Oh, sweetheart, don't worry. We'll guide you." That was the first time she called me sweetheart in that tone. Not affection. Ownership. Daniel warned me a little, but not enough. He said his mom liked to be included. He said she had a strong personality. He said she had raised him and Mara mostly alone after the divorce, and still carried that like proof she was owed special handling forever. I understood that. My mother had also raised children while tired. She had also worked double shifts and clipped coupons and swallowed fear. The difference was that my mother did not use her sacrifice as a weapon at dinner. In June, Daniel and I chose a venue. It was not fancy. It was a restored mill building near the river with brick walls, big windows, and a courtyard where we could have the ceremony if it did not rain. The total deposit was $6,400. Daniel and I split it from a joint wedding savings account we had opened the week after the proposal. I paid $3,200 from my checking account. He paid $3,200 from his. I uploaded both receipts into a shared folder named Wedding Admin because, again, that is who I am as a person. Gloria wanted the country club. She brought it up at brunch 3 days after we signed the venue contract. Daniel, Mara, Gloria, and I were at a place that served tiny pancakes stacked like coins. Gloria stirred her coffee for a full minute before she said, "So I spoke to Linda at Hawthorne Country Club. They can still hold September 21st for us if we move quickly." Daniel looked up. "Mom, we already booked the mill." "You put down a deposit," she said. "Deposits can be moved." "No, they can't. It was non-refundable." She turned to me then. "Aisha, did you understand that when you signed it?" I blinked. "Yes. It was on the contract." I only ask because these places can be tricky. They see a young couple and suddenly there are fees everywhere. "I work with contracts every day," I said, keeping my voice light. We read it. Mara gave me a quick look over her coffee cup. I did not know her well yet, but I understood the look. It said, "Careful." Not because I was wrong, because Gloria had noticed I was not easy to move. Gloria smiled. "Of course." I just want to protect my son. That sentence became her shield. I just want to protect my son. She could put anything behind it. Questions about my salary. Comments about my family's guest list. Little digs about how my mother was so casual when we all met for dinner, because my mother wore flat sandals after standing all day at the clinic where she worked. If anyone frowned, Gloria softened her voice and said she was protective. Everyone nodded because protection sounded noble. Control is smart enough to borrow better words. By July, the whispers started. Not from Gloria directly. That would have been too obvious. They came through cousins, aunts, people Daniel had grown up with and trusted. His cousin Eleni stopped liking my posts and then pretended she had not seen them. His Aunt Patricia, who had been warm at the engagement dinner, began answering my texts with thumbs-up emojis. At a family barbecue, Daniel's cousin Nico asked me, half joking, "So are you making Daniel buy you the big house after the wedding, or are you starting with a car?" I laughed because I thought it was a joke. If Daniel finds a big house hiding somewhere, tell him to share the address. Nico's smile slipped. "No, I just mean, you know, you seem like you have a plan." "I have a seating chart plan," I said. "That's about it." He looked past me toward the patio, where Gloria was holding court near the lemonade dispenser. "Right. Sure." That was the first time I felt it. Not rudeness. Rudeness is direct. This was a fog. People got colder without telling me why, and every time I tried to touch the reason, it moved. Daniel noticed some of it but explained it away. "My family is weird with weddings," he said after the barbecue, driving home with one hand on the wheel. "They get territorial." Territorial about what? About traditions. About Mom. About everything. It'll settle. I wanted to believe him. Daniel was not weak in the way people use that word when they want an easy villain. He was kind. He saw the best in people because most of the time he had been rewarded for doing that. In his family, the price of peace was not asking too many follow-up questions. He had learned that before he was old enough to name it. Then came the first specific lie. It was a Saturday morning in August. I was at my apartment, sitting cross-legged on the floor with fabric swatches spread around me when Mara called. I almost did not answer because Mara and I were still in that polite future sister-in-law stage where phone calls felt too intimate, but something in my stomach tightened when I saw her name. "Hey," I said. "Everything okay?" There was a pause. Then Mara said, "Did you tell my mom her family was tacky?" I looked down at the swatches. Navy, sage, dusty rose. "What?" "At brunch. Did you say our family was too loud and tacky for the venue?" "No, Mara, no. I never said that." She exhaled, and I could hear traffic behind her. "That's what I thought." "Why would she say that?" "Because Aunt Patricia called me this morning furious, saying Mom was crying after you told her you didn't want the wedding to feel like a neighborhood block party." I actually laughed, not because it was funny, because my brain rejected it. I said I liked the courtyard because it felt relaxed. That's it. Gloria said the country club would be more elegant, and I said we wanted something warmer. That sounds more like you. Mara, did people believe that? Another pause. That pause told me more than any answer. "Some did," she said. "Some didn't." "Aisha, listen. I shouldn't be the one telling you this, but if you hear weird things, don't assume you're imagining it." My fingers went still on the fabric. "What does that mean?" "It means my mother does this. She says she doesn't, but she does." I wanted to ask more, but Mara pulled herself back. I could hear it happen, the door closing. "I have to go," she said. "Just be careful what you say around her. Or better yet, put it in writing." Put it in writing. That was the first real plant in the ground. Mara said it almost as a warning. I heard it as survival advice. From that day on, I changed the way I dealt with Gloria. If she called to discuss wedding details, I followed up by text. If she said she would handle something, I emailed a confirmation. If she mentioned money, I wrote the amount and purpose. It was not revenge yet. It was self-defense. Gloria noticed immediately. A week after Mara's call, Gloria phoned me while I was at work and said she wanted to contribute to the flowers. "I will send you $2,000, she said. "It can be my gift." "That's very generous," I said. "Thank you. I'll text you the florist's invoice so you can pay them directly if you want." There was a little silence. "No," she said. "I'll give it to Daniel. He can give it to you." "Directly to the vendor is cleaner," I said. "That way there's a receipt in your name." "Are you implying I need a receipt?" "No, I'm saying vendors send receipts." Her voice cooled. "You know, Aisha, in families, we don't treat each other like businesses." I looked at the stack of subcontractor invoices on my desk. "I treat money like money. It prevents misunderstandings." She made a soft sound. "Misunderstandings happen when people don't trust each other." After we hung up, I texted her anyway. "Thank you again for offering to contribute to the flowers. The florist invoice is attached. If you prefer, you can pay them directly by card or check. Daniel and I appreciate it." She responded 3 hours later. "Never mind. I do not want my gift turned into paperwork." I saved the screenshot. That was the thing about Gloria. She believed documentation was rude when it applied to her, and proof when she could invent it about someone else. By September, I had a folder on my laptop called G-Wedding. Inside it were subfolders: venue, florist, catering, texts, guest list. Weird, which was where I put screenshots I did not yet understand. The weird folder started as a joke between me and Layla. It did not stay funny. The second lie was about money. Daniel and I had agreed we would not ask either family to pay. My parents insisted on covering my dress and the dessert table because those things mattered to my mother. Daniel's father sent $1,500 with a note that said, "For music, booze, or whatever makes the day easier." Gloria gave nothing, which would have been completely fine if she had not wanted credit for giving everything. In October, Daniel came home from a shift looking exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with work. He sat at my kitchen table and rubbed his forehead. "What happened?" I asked. He said, "My mom thinks there was a mix-up with the wedding account." I put down the knife I was using to chop onions. "What kind of mix-up?" "She said she gave you money for the venue deposit and you didn't tell me." For a second, the apartment went very quiet. The refrigerator hummed behind me. Someone outside honked twice. "She said what?" Daniel looked pained. "She said she gave you $3,000 in cash after brunch at Cafe Lucia. She said it was supposed to go toward the venue, but then you and I paid from the joint account, so she was confused where it went." I stared at him. "Daniel, she never gave me cash." "I know. I think I know." That tiny correction hurt more than I expected. Not because he accused me, because I could see the question had entered him. It was standing there between us, unwelcome and alive. "You think you know?" He closed his eyes. "I don't think you took money. I don't." But she was crying, Aish. She said she didn't want to make a big thing because she didn't want to embarrass you. That is making a big thing. I know. "Did she give you a date?" "After the brunch where we talked about flowers." I walked to my laptop without answering. My hands felt hot, then cold. I opened the folder. Venue deposit June, bank transfer confirmations, Cafe Lucia brunch, August. Text from Gloria, refusing to pay the florist because she did not want paperwork. I pulled up my bank statements. No $3,000 cash deposit. No cash deposits at all that month, except $80 from selling an old bookcase on Marketplace. Daniel watched me do it, and the expression on his face changed. It was not relief yet. It was shame arriving before relief had permission. Here, I said, turning the screen. This is the venue deposit. We paid June 8th. This is the brunch she's talking about, August 12th. This is her text after the brunch saying she changed her mind about contributing to flowers. And this is my bank statement for August. No cash deposit. He read it all, slowly. Then he said, "Why would she say that?" That question sounds innocent. It is not. When someone asks why a person would lie and they ask it with enough disbelief, what they are really saying is that the lie still has a little room to live. I said, "Because it makes me look like what she wants people to think I am." He looked up. "Which is?" "A gold digger." He flinched. I had not heard that word from him yet. But I had felt it in rooms for months. I had felt it in the way his aunt asked what my job paid. I had felt it when Nico joked about houses and cars. I had felt it when Gloria introduced me to a friend as Daniel's fiancé. She works with contractors. With the pause people use when they want someone to fill in a stereotype. Daniel reached for my hand. "I don't think that." "Your mother does, and she's not keeping it to herself." He did not argue. That should have comforted me. Instead, it made me wonder what else he already knew and had been hoping would disappear. The normal way to handle a lie is to confront it. So we tried the normal way first. Daniel called Gloria that night with me sitting beside him. He put the phone on speaker. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Mom," he said, "I need to ask you something directly. Did you give Aisha $3,000 in cash?" Gloria sighed like he had asked whether she loved him. "Daniel, I told you I don't want this to become a fight." "That's not an answer." "I gave her an envelope. She knows I did. Maybe she misunderstood what it was for." I leaned toward the phone. "Gloria, you never gave me an envelope." Silence. Then, very softly, she said, "I don't appreciate being called a liar in my own family." "No one called you a liar," Daniel said. I looked at him, because yes, someone needed to. Gloria's voice broke. It was a perfect break, right in the middle. "I am trying so hard to welcome her. I have defended her to people who were worried. And now I am being interrogated." "Who is worried?" I asked. "Aisha, please don't take that tone with me." "What tone?" "That one." There it was, the invisible weapon, the tone. If she could not prove my words were wrong, she would make my voice the crime. Daniel rubbed his eyes. "Mom, we have the bank records. The venue was paid in June. You said this happened in August." "Then maybe it was for something else." "You just said it was for the venue." "Daniel, I am not on trial." And that was when she hung up. I wanted that to be the moment Daniel saw it clearly. Some part of him did. But another part of him had spent 32 years being trained to feel guilty when his mother sounded wounded. He sat there with the dead phone in his hand and said, "She sounded really upset." I said, "So am I." He nodded, but he did not look at me quickly enough. What Gloria did not know, and what made the next part work, was that I had stopped treating each incident like an isolated misunderstanding. I had started treating it like a timeline. The timeline began in a plain Google document. Date. Claim. Who heard it? What evidence contradicted it? At first there were 4 entries, then 9, then 17. It felt ridiculous as I typed it. It felt paranoid. Then I would receive another cold text from someone who had been warm a month earlier, and ridiculous would turn back into necessary. In November, the whispers sharpened. At Daniel's cousin's baby shower, I walked into the kitchen and heard my name. People always think you hear the dramatic part. You usually do not. You hear the sentence after, the little cleanup sentence that tells you a mess happened before you arrived. Aunt Patricia said, "Well, if Gloria says she saw the messages, then I believe her." I stopped outside the kitchen doorway with a glass of lemonade in my hand. Eleni said, I just can't imagine saying that to his mother. Mara, who was at the sink, said, What messages? The room went quiet. I stepped in. No, I'm curious too. What messages? Patricia's face changed so fast it would have been funny if my chest had not hurt. Oh, honey, we were not talking about you. You said Gloria saw messages. What messages? Eleni looked at Patricia. Patricia looked toward the hallway as if Gloria might materialize and rescue them. Mara dried her hands on a towel. Aunt Pat. Patricia lowered her voice. Your mother said Aisha sent a text calling the family trashy and saying she wished Daniel could just cut everyone off after the wedding. My fingers tightened around the glass. I never sent that. Eleni said. She said she saw it. Then ask her to show it to you. That sentence landed strangely. Not because it was aggressive, because apparently no one had thought of it. Patricia said, I'm sure she wouldn't lie about something like that. Then the screenshot should clear it up. No one answered. From the hallway, Gloria's voice floated in. Clear what up? She walked in holding a plate with a single mini quiche on it, smiling like she had entered by accident. I knew then that she had been close enough to hear everything. I turned to her. Your family says you've been telling people I sent messages insulting them. Please show them. The kitchen went so still I could hear the dishwasher running. Gloria blinked once. This is a baby shower. I agree. It was a strange place for you to spread that. Her eyes hardened. Just for a second. Then they filled. I will not be attacked in my niece's kitchen, she said. No one is attacking you. I'm asking for the messages you said you saw. There it is again, she said, looking at Patricia, not me. That hostility. I told you. Mara put the towel down. Mom, do you have the messages or not? Gloria looked at her daughter the way people look at a chair that has suddenly spoken. Mara, stay out of this. No. Do you have them? Gloria's mouth tightened. I am not going to reward this behavior. Then she left the kitchen. It should have helped that everyone saw her dodge the question. It did not help enough. Families built around a matriarch like Gloria do not process contradictions immediately. They file them in a drawer marked uncomfortable and promise themselves they will look later. Later almost never comes. On the drive home, Daniel was quiet. He had not been in the kitchen. He had been helping his cousin carry gifts to the car. He heard about it afterward from 3 people, which meant he heard 3 versions. Mine, Mara's, and Gloria's. Gloria's version was that I cornered her at a baby shower and demanded to inspect her phone. Did you? Daniel asked carefully. I stared at him from the passenger seat. Did I what? Demand to inspect her phone. I asked her to show the messages she told people she had. Okay. That's not the same thing. I said okay. You said okay like you're putting a pin in it. He gripped the wheel. I'm trying to understand. No, you're trying to find a version where nobody is lying. He did not answer. The wipers moved back and forth across a windshield that was not wet enough to need them. I loved him. That is what made it hard. If I had not loved him, his hesitation would have been an easy answer. I could have walked away and told myself I had dodged a lifetime. But I loved the man who brought soup to my father after dental surgery and remembered that my mother liked lemon in her tea. I loved the man who cried when a patient sent him a thank you card. I loved the man who did not yet understand that refusing to choose between truth and peace is still a choice. By December, Gloria had turned the wedding into a courtroom where I was not allowed to see the charges. She told one aunt I had refused to invite Daniel's elderly great-uncle because he used a walker and would ruin the photos. In reality, The great uncle had already RSVP'd, yes, and I had called the venue to confirm ramp access. I had the email. She told a cousin I had demanded Daniel remove his childhood friend from the groomsmen because he was not successful enough. In reality, that friend had stepped down because his wife was due the week of the wedding. I had the text from him apologizing and asking if he could still attend. She told people my parents were not contributing because they expected Daniel to take care of Aisha now. In reality, my parents had paid for my dress, the dessert table, and the invitations. And they had done it quietly because they did not treat generosity as a press release. Every lie had the same shape. It made me look greedy, classist, or contemptuous. It made Gloria look like the wounded guardian of family values. It made Daniel the prize everybody was afraid I would steal. And each time I found out, I added a line to the timeline. Date, claim, source, evidence. The file grew. Mara became my ally slowly. Not because she did not believe me at first. She did. But believing me meant reopening her own history, and that hurt more than she wanted to admit. One night in January, she came to my apartment with a grocery store cheesecake and a bottle of cheap Prosecco. Daniel was working late. I thought we were going to talk bridesmaid dresses. Instead, Mara put the cheesecake on my counter and said, "My mother told the family I ruined my own engagement." I stopped reaching for plates. Mara stared at the floor. 3 years ago, I was engaged to Colin. He was boring, but in a nice way. Stable. Had this golden retriever energy. My mom hated him because his parents were divorced and his dad worked at a tire shop. She kept saying he would drag me down. I told her to stop. Then one day, his mother stopped answering my texts. His sisters unfollowed me. Colin got weird. I said nothing. Mara laughed once, without humor. Sound familiar? What did she say? That I called his family low class. That I said his mother looked like she bought her dress at a funeral home. I never said that. I would never. But Colin believed it just enough. Not fully. Just enough to start asking me why I couldn't make more of an effort with his family. She pressed the heel of her hand to her eye. We lasted 2 more months. By the end, I was so tired of defending myself against things I never said that I looked like the difficult person she claimed I was. When we broke up, Mom told everyone I had always been dramatic. The apartment felt smaller. "Mara," I said, "why didn't you tell Daniel?" I did. A little. He thought Mom was being overprotective. Colin didn't have proof, and neither did I. That was the problem. It was all phone calls and lunch conversations and little private comments. She never wrote the worst things down. I thought of Gloria's text refusing to put money through a vendor. I thought of the folder. "She writes more with me," I said. Mara looked up. "Because she thinks you're beneath her." That landed with a strange clarity. Gloria was careful with people she respected as threats. She had not been careful with me because she thought I was temporary. A girl passing through. A woman Daniel would eventually be corrected out of loving. Mara opened her phone. I don't have everything, but I have some. Old texts. Mom telling me Colin's family had concerns. Mom telling me not to embarrass myself by chasing them. Mom saying, "Everyone knows how emotional you get." I saved them because I thought maybe one day I'd need proof that I wasn't crazy. She sent them to me one by one. That night, the G-wedding folder got a new subfolder. Pattern. The second relative was Daniel's aunt by marriage, Sophia. She had been married to Gloria's younger brother for 14 years before a divorce that the family still talked about in careful voices. Gloria had always described Sophia as unstable. That was the word. Never cruel, never selfish. Unstable. It made every story about her sound like a symptom. I had met Sophia only once, at a holiday gathering where she stood near the door and left early. But after Mara told me her story, she said, "If you want to understand my mother, call Sophia." I hesitated. It felt invasive. It felt like digging up someone else's pain to prove mine was real. But 2 days later, Aunt Patricia sent Daniel a long message saying she was heartbroken that I had created division in the family before even joining it. Gloria had moved from gossip to narrative. I was no longer a person. I was the explanation for every discomfort. So I called Sophia. She answered on the fourth ring, cautious. "Hello?" "Hi, Sophia. This is Aisha, Daniel's fiancée. I hope this isn't strange." She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Did Gloria start on you?" "Not hello. Not how are you. Did Gloria start on you?" I sat down on the edge of my bed. Sophia told me her story in a voice so calm it sounded practiced. During her divorce, Gloria had told relatives Sophia was hiding assets, neglecting the kids, and refusing to let Gloria's mother see them. None of it was true. Sophia had emails, custody calendar screenshots, bank disclosures, all of it. But at the time, she had been too exhausted to fight a parallel trial in the family while fighting the real one in court. "Gloria knows most people won't check," Sophia said. "She gives them a feeling, not a fact. By the time you bring a fact, they feel rude for questioning the feeling." I wrote that sentence down. "What made it stop?" I asked. Sophia gave a small laugh. "It didn't. I left the family. That stopped me hearing it. Different thing." Before we hung up, she sent me 3 screenshots. One was a message Gloria had sent her in 2019 after Sophia pushed back on a lie about visitation. It read, "You should be careful. In this family, people know what kind of woman you are." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Everyone knows what kind of girl you are. People know what kind of woman you are. Gloria did not just lie. She had catchphrases. By February, I had enough to prove a pattern to anyone who wanted proof. The problem was that wanting proof is the rare part. Daniel and I started premarital counseling because his clinic offered a few sessions through employee benefits. I suggested it after another fight about his mother. He agreed because he truly wanted us to be okay. The counselor, a woman named Dr. Benitez, had gray hair cut at her chin and a talent for asking questions that made both of us uncomfortable. In the second session, Daniel said, "I feel stuck in the middle." Dr. Benitez said, "Between what and what?" "Between my fiancé and my mother." She turned to me. "Is that how you see it?" I said, "No. I see him as stuck between evidence and habit." Daniel looked at me, hurt. Dr. Benitez did not soften it. "Daniel, has Aisha shown you evidence?" He nodded. "Has your mother?" He rubbed his palms on his jeans. "No." "Then what is the middle?" He stared at the carpet. I remember that moment because it was one of the first times someone outside the family named the structure. Gloria had trained everyone to treat her feelings as one side and other people's facts as the other. Dr. Benitez did not accept that math. After the session, Daniel sat in the car for a long time before starting it. "I hate this," he said. "I know. I hate that I keep hoping there's an explanation. I know. And I hate that part of me is angry at you for making me look." That one hurt, but it was honest. Honest was better than peace. "I'm not making you look," I said. "I'm just not letting you keep your eyes closed and call it love." He nodded. He did not defend himself. That was progress. But progress is not the same as arrival. Gloria still had one bigger move left. The staged confrontation happened in March, 6 months before the wedding. It was at Daniel's Aunt Patricia's house after a Sunday lunch. Patricia lived in a split-level home with plastic runners on the stairs and family photos covering the hallway. Gloria had insisted we all come because she wanted to clear the air. I did not want to go. Daniel thought maybe a group conversation would help. Mara texted me that morning, "Do not go alone with Mom anywhere." I should have listened more carefully. Lunch itself was tense, but polite. Gloria complimented my sweater. Patricia asked about the cake tasting. Nico made one joke about seating charts, and then seemed to remember he was not sure what side he was on. After dessert, Gloria touched my elbow. "Can we speak privately?" she asked. Every instinct in me said no. But the room was watching, and I was still trapped in the old reflex of not wanting to look difficult. "Sure," I said. She led me to Patricia's laundry room off the kitchen. It smelled like detergent and warm towels. The dryer was running, buttons clicking against the drum. Gloria closed the door behind us but did not shut it all the way. I noticed that. I also noticed her phone in her hand, screen dark, angled down. "I want to fix this," she said. I folded my arms. "Okay. But I need you to be honest about what you want. I want the lies to stop." Her face changed. "Not much. Just enough." "See, that's the problem," she said. "You keep using that word, lies. It is very aggressive." "What word would you prefer for untrue things you've told people?" She stepped closer. "I prefer respect. Respect would be not telling people I stole money from you." Her eyes flicked to the half-open door. Then she raised her voice just slightly. "Aisha, please lower your voice." My voice had not changed. I understood, half a second too late, what she was doing. "I'm not raising my voice," I said, quieter. She put a hand to her chest. "You are scaring me." The dryer clicked and clicked. "Gloria, stop." "I asked you to have a calm conversation," she said, louder now. "I will not be threatened." I felt heat rush to my face. "Threatened? Are you kidding me?" The door opened. Patricia stood there, eyes wide. Behind her were Eleni and Nico. Daniel was not there. Of course Daniel was not there. He had gone to the basement with Patricia's husband to look at a leaking water heater. Gloria took one step back from me like I had shoved her. "I can't do this," she whispered. I said, "You set this up." "Wrong sentence, true sentence, wrong room." Patricia said, "Aisha, maybe you should take a breath." "I am breathing." Eleni looked frightened. Not of me, exactly. Of the scene, of having to decide what she saw. Gloria's hand trembled near her collarbone. I will give her credit. She was good. "I only wanted to talk," she said. "I wanted to ask her why she hates us so much." "I don't hate you," I said. But I sounded angry by then, because I was. And that was what she had needed. Daniel came upstairs 2 minutes later into a room already arranged against me. His mother was seated on the couch with Patricia beside her. I was standing near the kitchen island, holding my purse straps so tightly my fingers hurt. Everyone was speaking in low voices, which made it look like I was the only person with volume. "What's going on?" Daniel asked. Gloria looked at him with wet eyes. "I think Aisha needs to go home." I said, "Daniel, she staged this." He looked from me to his mother. "What happened?" 4 people answered at once. That was the lowest point. Not because Gloria lied. By then I expected that. It was low because Daniel looked overwhelmed. And for one terrible second, I saw him consider choosing the version that would make the room easier. In the car afterward, we had the worst fight of our relationship. "You believe I threatened her?" I asked. "I didn't say that." "Then what are you saying?" "I'm saying everyone came in and you were furious. Because she accused me of threatening her." "I know, but maybe she felt cornered." I turned in the passenger seat. She asked me into a laundry room, left the door open, raised her voice, accused me of scaring her, and waited for an audience. Daniel's jaw tightened. "You make her sound like some criminal mastermind." That sentence split something in me. I looked out the window at a gas station sign glowing red in the dusk. No, I make her sound like a woman who has done this before. He did not answer. When we got to my apartment, I did not invite him in. He followed me to the door anyway. Aish, he said, please. I turned around. I love you. But I cannot marry into a family where your mother can put words in my mouth, take money out of thin air, stage a scene, and still get the benefit of the doubt because crying is easier than evidence. He looked wrecked. What are you saying? I'm saying you need to decide whether you want the truth or the version of your family that lets you sleep. That's not fair. Neither is this. I went inside and locked the door. That night I sat on my kitchen floor, still in my coat, and cried in the dark because I thought I had lost him. Not to another woman, not to cold feet, to gravity, to the pull of a family system that had been working on him since childhood. There is a special helplessness in watching someone you love stand at the edge of understanding and then step back, because understanding would cost them too much. At 1:12 a.m., Mara texted me. I heard what happened. Mom is telling people you lunged at her. I stared at the screen. Then another text came. She forgot Patricia has a laundry room camera for the dog. I sat up. Mara wrote, it doesn't record audio, but it shows the doorway. You never moved toward her. She moved toward the door before she started crying. That was the first concrete break in the staged scene. Not enough to solve everything. Enough to remind me I was not crazy. The next morning, Daniel came over with coffee and a face that looked like he had not slept. I let him in because love does not disappear just because you are furious. It makes the fury heavier. He put the coffee on the counter and said, Mara sent me the camera clip. I waited. You didn't lunge? No. She told Aunt Patricia you did. Yes. He looked at the floor. I asked Mom about it. She said she felt like you might. I laughed once because if I did not laugh, I would start yelling. So now the accusation is based on a feeling about a thing that didn't happen. He nodded slowly. Daniel, do you understand what she did? He closed his eyes. I think I'm starting to. Starting. The word hurt, but I took it. Starting was better than not. I opened my laptop and showed him the timeline. Not one screenshot, not one argument. The whole thing. Dates, claims, contradictions, venue invoices, the florist text, the great-uncle accessibility email, the groomsman text, Mara's old messages, Sophia's screenshots, the laundry room clip. 42 entries by then. He sat at my kitchen table and read for almost an hour. At first, he asked questions. Who told you this one? When did Aunt Patricia say that? Can I see the original message? I answered all of them. Then he stopped asking. He just read. When he got to Sophia's screenshot, the one that said, people know what kind of woman you are, his face changed. She said almost the same thing to you, he said. Not almost. I pulled up a text Gloria had sent me after the baby shower confrontation. It read, you keep proving what kind of girl you are. Daniel will see it eventually. He covered his mouth with his hand. That was the first time I saw the whole belief crack. Not bend. Crack. I need copies, he said. Of what? Everything. I sent him the folder link. For the next 3 days, Daniel did something I had begged him to do for months. He checked, quietly, without telling Gloria. He called the venue and confirmed the payment dates. He called his father and asked whether Gloria had ever mentioned giving us money. His father laughed in that sad, divorced way and said, your mother doesn't give cash without a brass band. Daniel called the groomsman. He called his great-uncle's daughter. He called Sophia. He sat with Mara for 2 hours. Each call took something from him. I could see it. People talk about truth like it is clean. Sometimes truth is a demolition job. It takes down the load-bearing lies, and for a while, you are standing in dust. On the fourth day, Gloria gave Daniel the ultimatum. It happened at her house. He went alone because he said he needed to speak to her without me as the focus. I did not like it, but I understood. He recorded nothing. He told me later he wished he had. Gloria served tea in the living room like it was a diplomatic meeting. Daniel said he needed the lies to stop. He said he had verified the venue payments. He said he knew she had not given me $3,000. He said he had spoken to Mara and Sophia. He said if she had concerns, she needed to bring them directly with proof, not through relatives. Gloria listened until he said Sophia's name. Then she set down her cup. "So she has poisoned you too," she said. "Mom." "No, I see it now. Aisha has been collecting people. That is what women like her do. They collect grievances. They turn families against mothers." "Aisha didn't make you lie about the money." Gloria stood. "You do not speak to me that way in my house." "Then tell me the truth. Did you give her cash? After everything I sacrificed for you, you are going to cross-examine me over a girl? She is my fiancée. She is a mistake." Daniel told me that was the moment he felt something inside him go very still. Gloria pointed toward the door. "You have a choice. Her or this family. If you marry her, do not expect me to sit there and smile while she takes you from us." There it was. The sentence behind every whisper. Her or this family. Daniel left without finishing his tea. He came to my apartment afterward and repeated it to me in a voice that sounded hollow. I did not celebrate. I did not say, "I told you." I wanted to. I am not a saint. But the man I loved had just watched his mother put a price on his obedience. So I said, "What did you tell her?" He looked at me. I told her the wedding is still happening. I breathed for what felt like the first time in weeks. And if she wants to come, she owes you an apology. A real one. In front of the people she lied to. I sat down because my legs did not trust themselves. For about 12 hours I thought that might be enough. That was naive, but it was a nice 12 hours. Gloria did not apologize. She escalated. The next morning, 5 relatives received a long message from her. Daniel's cousin Nico forwarded it to him because, to his credit, he had started to feel uneasy. The message said that Daniel was being isolated by me, that I had forced him to cut off his mother, that I had questionable financial motives, and that Gloria could not stay silent while her son was being manipulated. She included one screenshot. It was from a text conversation between us. In the screenshot, I appeared to write, "I don't care what your family thinks. After the wedding, Daniel will understand who matters." For 3 minutes, I could not speak. Then I noticed the crop. The screenshot showed only one blue bubble. No date, no contact name, no messages before or after. It also used a slightly different shade of blue than iMessage used on my phone because Gloria, apparently, had found one of those fake text generators online and had not bothered to match the interface. Layla, who was at my apartment when Daniel sent it, leaned over my shoulder and said, "That is the laziest fake text I have ever seen." I started laughing, not because it was funny, because after months of fog, Gloria had finally made a mistake that looked like a mistake. Daniel called her immediately. "Send the full conversation," he said when she answered. Gloria said, "I will not participate in this abuse." "Send it." "She deletes things, Daniel. You know how these girls are." "Mom, send the full conversation." "Everyone knows what kind of girl she is." There it was. Out loud to him this time. Daniel's voice went quiet. "Do not come to the wedding unless you are ready to tell the truth." He hung up. Then he looked at me and said, "We need to decide what to do with all this." I had imagined revenge in angry little flashes before. Gloria embarrassed. Gloria exposed. Gloria forced to answer every lie. But when the chance became real, it did not feel like revenge yet. It felt like hygiene. Like opening windows in a room where everyone had gotten used to the smell of gas. The first idea was a family email. Daniel wanted to send a calm message with the evidence attached. I drafted one. It was 4 pages long and somehow still too short. Mara read it and said, "Half of them won't open the attachments. Mom will call them crying before they finish the second paragraph." She was right. The second idea was individual calls. Daniel made 3. They were exhausting. Each person had one piece of the lie and needed the entire context. Aunt Patricia cried. Nico apologized but kept saying, "I didn't know what to think." Eleni asked whether maybe Gloria had been confused. By the end of the third call, Daniel looked like he had aged a year. Mara said, "There is only one thing that works with Mom. Everyone has to see the same thing at the same time. No side calls, no previews, no chance for her to split the room." I did not like where that pointed. "The rehearsal dinner," Layla said. We all looked at her. She lifted both hands. "I'm not saying throw tomatoes. I'm saying she has spent a year using rooms, kitchens, showers, brunches, group chats. She knows a room believes the first confident person. So use a room." Daniel was quiet. I said, "That sounds cruel." Mara shook her head. "No. What she did was cruel. Showing people proof in the only format they'll actually process is not cruel. Still, I set rules. No insults. No edited audio. No private medical or financial information unrelated to the lies. No humiliating photos. Only claims she made, proof contradicting those claims, and the pattern with Mara and Sophia included only with their consent. I would not become Gloria to beat Gloria. That mattered to me more than I can explain. Sophia consented immediately. "Use my name," she said. "I'm tired of being the ghost story she tells to scare people." Mara consented too, but cried after she did. I found her in my bathroom wiping her eyes with toilet paper because she did not want Daniel to see. "I keep thinking if I had done this years ago, maybe she wouldn't have done it to you," she said. I sat on the edge of the tub. "No, she did it because she wanted to." "I know. Do you?" Mara looked at me, and for a second she looked younger than me, even though she was older. "I'm trying." The planning took 2 weeks. My job had made me good at timelines, but this was different. A construction timeline is neutral. Concrete poured. Inspection scheduled. Permit approved. This timeline had teeth. Every entry was a place where someone had looked at me differently because Gloria had put a story in their mouth. We built the presentation like a documented chronology. Slide 1, the $3,000 claim. Gloria's version, quoted from her text to Daniel. Venue invoice dated June 8th. Bank transfer confirmations from Daniel and me. Gloria's August text refusing to pay the florist directly. My bank statement showing no cash deposit, with account numbers blacked out. Slide 2. The family is tacky claim. My text to Gloria after the venue brunch saying, "I loved that everyone was so lively. I want the wedding to feel like both families are actually in the room, not like a hotel brochure." Slide 3. The great uncle claim. Gloria's message to Aunt Patricia saying I excluded him. My email to the venue about ramp access sent 6 weeks earlier. His RSVP. Slide by slide, the fog became weather data. Mara insisted on one section called pattern. I thought that sounded too aggressive. She said, "No, this is the part that matters. If it's just you, they'll say wedding stress. If it's me and Sophia too, they have to ask why the same woman keeps being surrounded by unstable liars." So pattern stayed. We included 3 of Mara's texts. One where Gloria told her Colin's family was concerned about your attitude. One where Gloria wrote, "You get emotional and then blame everyone else." One where, after Mara's engagement ended, Gloria wrote, "Maybe this is for the best." Marriage requires a woman who can control her tone. I hated that line. It sounded too familiar. For Sophia, we included the 2019 message, "In this family, people know what kind of woman you are." We included one custody calendar screenshot showing Gloria had lied about visitation. We included Sophia's note, which she wrote herself, short and calm. I stayed quiet because I thought leaving would end it. It did not. I am sharing this so nobody else has to defend herself alone. Daniel handled the technical side because if I touched the projector, I knew someone would later claim I had hijacked the dinner. He asked his cousin Theo, the one with the projector, if we could add a "thank you" video to the slideshow. Theo said yes without asking questions because Theo was 24 and mostly cared that the HDMI adapter worked. The audio was the hardest decision. We had one voicemail from Gloria. She had left it for Daniel after he told her not to come unless she was ready to apologize. In it, she said, "You think those papers mean something? Families are not courtrooms. By the time that girl is done with you, you will have nobody. Everyone already knows what kind of girl she is." Daniel wanted to play it. I did not. "It feels too much," I said. He looked at me across my kitchen table, the laptop light on his face. "She said it because she thought only I would hear it." "I know. That's the point." Mara said gently, "Aisha, if you don't play her voice, she'll say you twisted the screenshots." So we kept 22 seconds. Not the whole voicemail. Just enough. There was one more reason we decided against a private email, and it came from a place I had not expected: the wedding vendors. 3 weeks before the wedding, my caterer, a woman named Renata who had the calmest phone voice in Massachusetts, called me while I was at work. "Aisha," she said, "I'm sorry to bother you. I just need to confirm a change request." I was staring at a subcontractor bid when she said it. "What change request?" "For the bar package. Someone called asking to remove the wine service and switch the past appetizers to the basic tray. They said the mother of the groom had approved it with you." The room around me seemed to tilt a little. "Please tell me you did not change anything." Renata's voice sharpened, just slightly. "I didn't. Your contract says changes must come from you or Daniel in writing. That's why I'm calling." I closed my eyes. Was the caller Gloria? She introduced herself as Daniel's mother. Of course she did. I thanked Renata, asked her to put a password on the account, and then sat at my desk with my hands flat beside the keyboard. This was not gossip anymore. This was an attempt to touch the wedding itself and leave my fingerprints on the mess. If the food arrived wrong, if the wine was missing, if guests complained, Gloria could sigh and say, "I tried to help, but Aisha insisted on handling everything." I texted Daniel first, then Mara. Then I added another entry to the timeline. Date, August 28th. Claim or action. Gloria attempted vendor change by phone. Evidence, caterer call log and follow-up email. Renata sent the email 10 minutes later. Per our call, no package changes have been made. A caller identifying herself as Gloria requested bar and appetizer adjustments, but I advised all changes must come from the contracted clients in writing. Daniel called his mother that evening. "Did you call Renata?" he asked. Gloria did not even pause. "I was trying to save you money." "See, by changing our catering without asking us? Do you hear yourself? I am your mother. I am not some stranger. You are not a signer on the contract." The silence after that was long enough that I looked up from the couch. Gloria said, "That's Aisha's language." Daniel looked at me. I shook my head once, not because I disagreed, but because I did not want to become the person feeding him lines in the background. He had to do this himself. He said, "No, that's contract language." She laughed, cold and small. "Listen to what she has turned you into." That call mattered later because it showed Daniel something the money lie had not. The lies were not just old stories floating around rooms. Gloria was still acting. She was still pulling levers. She was still sure she had rights over anything connected to him. After the caterer call, I password protected everything. Venue, florist, DJ photographer. The passwords were boring because I was not trying to be clever. The venue password was brick. The florist password was tulip. The photographer password was lens. I kept a spreadsheet because apparently my villain origin story was office administration. 2 days later, the florist emailed me. Just confirming, no changes to the ivory rose order. Someone asked whether we could remove the dark greenery because the bride's mother thought it looked cheap. We did not adjust anything. My mother had never spoken to the florist. When I called her, she was at work and answered in her break room. I could hear a microwave beeping behind her. "Mama," I said, "did you tell anyone the greenery looked cheap?" She went silent in the way mothers go silent when they already know they are about to be angry. "Who said I said that?" Gloria called the florist. My mother exhaled through her nose. "Give me her number." "No." "Aisha." "No, we are not doing that on a Tuesday while you're eating soup at work." She used my name. "I know." "She does not get to use my name." That was the closest my mother came to stepping into the fight herself before the rehearsal dinner. I think Gloria underestimated her because my mother was polite. A lot of people make that mistake. Polite does not mean passive. It means the blade is still in the drawer. The vendor incidents gave us 2 more slides, but more importantly, they gave us a cleaner explanation for the public reveal. Gloria had spread lies publicly, contacted relatives publicly, and now tried to interfere with contracts using other people's names. If we corrected her privately, she would simply move to the next private corner. The room was not revenge for revenge's sake. It was containment. Even then, Daniel wanted to give her one last off-ramp. He wrote a message on a Sunday night while I sat beside him on the couch. It took 40 minutes because he kept deleting sentences that sounded too angry and then putting them back because the softer version was not true. "Mom, I love you. I need you to understand this clearly. We have documentation that several things you said about Aisha are false. You also contacted our caterer and florist without permission. If you send a written correction to the relatives you contacted and agree not to discuss Aisha or the wedding with vendors, we can talk about you attending as a guest. If not, we will address the false claims ourselves." He stared at the message. "It sounds like a lawyer wrote it," he said. "It sounds like a boundary," I said. He sent it. Gloria responded 11 minutes later. "I will not confess to crimes I did not commit to satisfy a woman who is trying to erase me from my own son's life." Then, 30 seconds later, "One day you will understand that a mother sees things other people miss." Then, "Do not threaten me." Daniel put the phone face down on the coffee table. "I didn't threaten her." "I know. I gave her a way out." "I know." He leaned back and covered his eyes with his arm. "She won't take one." That was the first time he said it without me having to lead him there. We also had to think about the legal side, because it is one thing to have receipts, and another thing to blast them in a room full of people. Layla's older sister was an attorney, not our attorney, which she repeated 3 times before giving general advice over speakerphone. "Do not accuse her of crimes," she said. "Do not say she forged anything unless you can prove she personally made it. Say what you know. She sent this image. This image does not match the phone record. She made this claim. This invoice contradicts it. Keep adjectives out. Let the documents do the work." That sentence became our rule. Keep adjectives out. It was harder than it sounds. When someone has spent months making you look greedy and unstable, adjectives line up at the door begging to be used. Cruel, manipulative, vicious, sick. But every time I wanted to type one, I deleted it and replaced it with a date. Gloria said X on November 14th. Invoice says Y on June 8th. Vendor confirms no authorized change on August 28th. It made the presentation colder. It also made it stronger. Mara struggled with that part. Her section was the most emotional because it was older and messier. She had fewer clean documents, more fragments, more memories. One night she sat at my table with a highlighter in her hand and said, "What if they still don't believe me?" Daniel answered before I could. "Then, they don't deserve the soft version of you anymore." Mara looked at him like she had been waiting years for him to say something like that. He reached across the table and touched her wrist. "I should have listened better before." She nodded, but her mouth twisted. "Yeah, you should have." He did not defend himself. He just said, "I know." That mattered too. The plan was not just about Gloria. It was forcing the rest of us to stop performing around the hole she had made. Daniel had to own his delay. Mara had to decide her story deserved air. Sophia had to walk back into a room that had once made her feel disposable. I had to accept that being calm did not mean being silent. The night before the rehearsal, we did one full run-through in my living room. The projector sat on a stack of cookbooks. Layla sat on the floor with a notebook, playing the role of skeptical cousin. Mara sat on the arm of the couch, arms folded. Daniel stood by the wall, remote in hand. We made it 9 slides before Daniel had to stop. "I need a minute," he said. He went into the hallway and closed the door behind him. I found him sitting on the stairs, elbows on knees. "Too much?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, that's the problem. It's not too much. It's exactly enough." I sat beside him. He said, "I keep remembering being 10. She'd get into these fights with my dad, and afterward she'd come into my room and tell me, 'You're the only one who really knows me.' I thought that meant I was special." I waited. "It didn't," he said. "It meant I was responsible. I had no folder for that, no screenshot, no invoice. But in some ways, that was the oldest receipt in the whole story." We sat there until Layla opened the door and said, "I hate to interrupt childhood trauma, but the projector overheated, and I think that's a sign we need a better extension cord." Daniel laughed. A real laugh. Tired but real. So the next morning, he bought a new extension cord, a backup HDMI adapter, and 2 flash drives. He put the file on both, emailed a copy to himself, and uploaded one to the cloud. When I saw the setup, I said, "You know this is excessive, right?" He said, "I learned from the best." That was the first joke we made about my folders that did not feel heavy. The week before the wedding, Gloria changed tactics again. She became sweet. She sent me a text that said, "I hope we can put all this ugliness behind us. Weddings bring out stress in everyone. I am praying for peace." I stared at it in the grocery store parking lot, while a cart rolled slowly into the side of my car. A month earlier, that text might have worked on Daniel. Maybe even on me, if I was tired enough. It sounded like reconciliation if you did not notice there was no subject. All this ugliness, stress in everyone, peace, no lie named, no harm owned, just a fog machine with a Bible verse attached. I wrote back, "I am willing to move forward after you correct the false claims you made about me stealing money, insulting the family, excluding relatives, and manipulating Daniel. Please send that correction to the same relatives you contacted." She replied, "I see you are still committed to punishment." I saved the screenshot. At that point, saving screenshots felt less like strategy and more like brushing my teeth. 2 days later, Daniel received a message from Aunt Patricia. Your mother says Aisha is threatening to play private family matters at the rehearsal dinner. Please tell me that is not true. We had told no one except Mara, Sophia, Layla, and Theo. Sophia was not speaking to Gloria. Layla did not know Patricia. Theo did not know what the file contained. That meant Mara was the leak. Or Gloria was guessing. Mara swore she had said nothing. I believed her. Daniel called Patricia. Mom is the one who brought up the rehearsal dinner? She said she has a feeling, Patricia said. A feeling. Always a feeling. Enough to accuse. Never enough to prove. Daniel said, Aunt Pat, if Mom is worried about private family matters being discussed, she can start by correcting the public false ones. Patricia went quiet. Then she said, I don't know how we got here. That sentence irritated me more than it should have. We got here on a road. There were signs. People passed them and called them scenery. The day before the rehearsal dinner, Gloria sent Daniel one final text. If you humiliate me, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Daniel showed it to me, and I waited for fear. Instead, I felt strangely calm. Are you okay? He asked. Yes. Really? I nodded. She just confirmed she knows there's something to be humiliated by. He stared at the text for a long time, then he saved it to the folder. The rehearsal itself was awkward. Not disastrous. Awkward. The officiant walked us through where to stand. My father practiced handing me off and made a joke about charging Daniel interest. Daniel laughed too loudly because he was nervous. Gloria sat in the front row of the empty ceremony space, lips pressed together, watching me like a problem that had failed to solve itself. Afterward, at the restaurant, people tried to behave normally. That made it worse. There is nothing quite like a family pretending there is no tension while arranging bread baskets around it. Gloria worked the room before dinner. I watched her from near the bar while Layla fixed the clasp on my bracelet. Gloria touched elbows. She whispered in ears. She hugged Aunt Patricia a second too long. She kissed Nico's cheek and murmured something that made him look toward Daniel. Old habits? Last-minute weather seating? Layla followed my gaze. You can still decide not to do it. I appreciated that she said it. Real friends leave the exit visible. I said, if I don't, this becomes the story forever. Then do it clean. That's the plan. Dinner passed in pieces. Salad, toasted bread. Someone dropped a fork. Daniel's father made polite conversation with my mother about Vermont winters. Mara barely touched her pasta. Sophia arrived late and sat at the edge of my family's table because she said she was done sitting where Gloria assigned people. When Gloria saw her, the color drained from her face for half a second. That was the first time I knew Gloria truly understood danger was in the room. Not what kind. Just danger. The toasts began after dessert. Daniel's father went first, warm and rambling. My father went second and made everyone cry by talking about teaching me to ride a bike in a parking lot behind our old apartment. Layla went third and told a story about me color-coding a vacation itinerary so intensely that the hotel clerk asked if I worked for the airport. People laughed. Even Gloria smiled thinly. Then Aunt Patricia stood. This was not planned. She tapped her glass, face nervous. I just want to say, family is complicated, weddings are emotional, but at the end of the day, we have to remember that mothers only want what is best for their children. Mara's head snapped up. Daniel went still. Patricia continued, eyes shining. And Gloria has carried so much alone. I hope, after tonight, everyone can show grace. It was a warning toast. Soft, tearful, deniable. A little bridge for Gloria to walk over before we could close the gap. Gloria lowered her eyes modestly, accepting the tribute like a queen pretending to refuse a crown. Then she stood. Of course she did. I wasn't going to speak, she said. Mara whispered, "Oh no." Gloria held her glass with both hands. But Patricia is right. Family is complicated. And as a mother, you dream of the day your son finds someone who loves him for who he is, not what he can provide. The room shifted. My mother's hand closed around my father's. Daniel half rose. I touched his wrist. Not yet. Gloria looked directly at me. Her smile was sad and poisonous. I have tried to welcome Aisha. I truly have. But respect goes both ways. And I pray that one day she understands that joining a family means honoring it, not taking a son away from it. Silence. Then she added softly, clearly, perfectly. Everyone knows what kind of girl you are. There it was. The line from the hook. The line she had used on Sophia. The line she had texted me. The line she had said to Daniel on the phone. In her mind, it was the finishing move. The old spell. The room had always bowed to it before. For 1 second, nobody moved. Then Daniel stood. He did not shout. He did not curse. He just took the microphone from the little stand by the projector and said, "Since my mother brought this up publicly, we're going to answer it publicly." Gloria's face changed. Not much. Not yet. "Daniel," she said, still smiling, "don't do this." He looked at her. "You did this." Theo, pale and suddenly aware he was part of family history, clicked the laptop. The screen behind Daniel lit up. The first slide was plain. White background. Black text. Claims made about Aisha with records. No music. No dramatic font. Just that. The room made a sound I will never forget. Not a gasp. Smaller. A collective intake, like everyone had stepped onto a surface and found it lower than expected. Daniel said, "I need everyone to listen. No one is being asked to take our word for anything. That's the point." Gloria laughed once. "This is absurd." Her voice was too loud. Slide 1 appeared. Claim. Gloria gave Aisha $3,000 cash for the venue deposit, and Aisha kept it. Under it was Gloria's text to Daniel, with the date visible. "I gave her that money after brunch. I didn't want to embarrass her. But where did it go?" Below that, venue invoice. Paid June 8th. 2 bank confirmations. One from me, one from Daniel. Then Gloria's August text. "Never mind, I do not want my gift turned into paperwork." Daniel read it aloud. "Not all of it. Enough." Aunt Patricia lifted a hand to her mouth. Nico leaned forward, squinting like the screen might change if he looked hard enough. Gloria said, "Those are private financial documents." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because she had accused me of theft, and her objection was that I brought receipts. Daniel said, "Account numbers are redacted. The accusation wasn't private when you repeated it." That was the first small consequence, not the collapse. The first crack everyone heard. Slide 2. Claim. Aisha called Daniel's family tacky and said she did not want them embarrassing her at the wedding. Evidence. My text to Gloria after the venue visit. "I want the wedding to feel warm and lively, like both families are actually in the room. Your cousins are hilarious. Please send me the song your aunt mentioned." Eleni looked down at her lap. She had repeated that lie. I saw her remember it. Slide 3. Claim. Aisha excluded Uncle Theo Sr. because his walker would ruin photos. Evidence. My email to the venue dated November 3rd. "Can you confirm ramp access from the courtyard to the reception hall? Daniel's great-uncle uses a walker, and we want to make sure he can move comfortably between spaces." Under it, the venue coordinator's reply. Old Theo Sr., sitting 2 tables back with both hands on his cane, turned his head slowly toward Gloria. "You told me she didn't invite me," he said. Gloria's mouth opened. "No. I said there was confusion." Mara spoke from her table. "The RSVP was in the same screenshot, Mom." Slide 4. Claim. Aisha forced Daniel's childhood friend Mark out of the wedding party because he was not successful enough. Evidence. Mark's text to Daniel. Bro, I hate doing this, but Kayla's due date got moved up. I can't commit to groomsmen stuff. We still want to come if the baby doesn't arrive that week. Daniel said, Mark is watching the live stream from the hospital with his wife and newborn daughter. He gave permission to include this. A small nervous laugh moved through my side of the room, not because it was light, because reality had become so specific that Gloria's version started to look ridiculous. Gloria set down her glass. Her hand was steady. I noticed that. People like Gloria do not panic immediately. First they look for a new angle. I see what this is, she said. Aisha has prepared a trial. I took the microphone from Daniel. My hand did not shake. No, I said. You prepared the trial. I brought the exhibits. I did not plan that line. It just came out. A few people looked down quickly, hiding reactions. Daniel's father made a sound into his napkin that might have been a cough. Gloria's eyes narrowed. There she was. Not the crying mother, not the wounded matriarch. The woman underneath. Offended that someone she considered temporary had spoken well in public. This is exactly what I warned everyone about, she said. This performance. This disrespect. Then we'll keep going, I said. Theo clicked. Slide 5 was the fake text. Claim. Aisha wrote, I don't care what your family thinks. After the wedding, Daniel will understand who matters. Evidence. The cropped image Gloria sent. Next to it was a screenshot from my actual phone conversation with Gloria from that date, showing no such message. Under that was a note from Layla's friend Priya, a UX designer who had checked the fake image and marked the mismatched bubble color, font spacing, and missing metadata. I did not say Gloria had made it. I did not have to. Daniel said, Mom, you sent this to 5 people. If you have the original message, this is the moment to show it. The room turned toward her. That was new. Not toward me. Toward her. Gloria lifted her chin. I deleted it because I did not want that poison on my phone. Layla muttered, just loud enough for my table. Convenient sanitation. No one laughed, but I saw Mara's mouth twitch. Daniel said, You sent a screenshot of a message you say you deleted. I took the screenshot first. Then it would show the date, contact, and surrounding conversation. Not if she deleted things on her end. Priya, who was sitting with my friends, said politely, That's not how screenshots work. Gloria looked at her like she had forgotten non-family members had voices. Then came pattern. I had worried this section would feel like too much. It did not. It felt like the floor finally being pulled up so everyone could see the wiring. The slide title was simple. This has happened before. Mara stood before Daniel could ask her. She did not take the microphone. She did not need it. When I was engaged to Colin, she said, Mom told people I insulted his family. I didn't. Colin's mother stopped speaking to me because she believed I had called them low class. I spent months trying to defend myself without knowing what I was defending myself against. Gloria snapped, Mara, sit down. Mara's face went pale, but she stayed standing. No, she said. I'm done sitting down for you. That line changed the room more than any screenshot had, because Mara was not an outsider. She was Gloria's daughter, the one everyone privately agreed was difficult but loved anyway. Watching her stand there, voice shaking but clear, made people revisit every time they had used that word about her. Daniel clicked to Mara's texts. Gloria's words appeared behind her. You get emotional and then blame everyone else. Marriage requires a woman who can control her tone. Colin's family has concerns about your attitude. Mara said, She told me I was hard to love. She told them I thought I was better than them. Both things worked because I believed the first one and they believed the second. Gloria's face was rigid. "This is betrayal," she said. Mara looked at her. "Yes, it is. But not mine." Then Sophia stood. I did not know if she would. We had agreed her written note was enough, but she stood slowly from the end of my family's table, a slim woman in a navy dress, with silver at her temples and a face that looked tired of being described by other people. "When I divorced Gloria's brother," Sophia said, "I was called unstable. Some of you stopped inviting me to birthdays. Some of you told my children you hoped I would get help. Gloria told you I kept the children from their grandmother. Here is the custody calendar. Here are the visits. Here is the message she sent me when I asked her to stop." The slide changed. "In this family, people know what kind of woman you are." A little sound moved through the room. Not shock. Recognition. The same sentence, in an older form, from 5 years before. Gloria saw it too. I watched her eyes move from the screen to me, then to Sophia, then to Mara. Something flickered there. Not remorse. Calculation losing speed. Daniel clicked again. The voicemail slide appeared. Black background, white text. Audio. Gloria to Daniel. March 14th, 8:42 p.m. I had been dreading this part. My stomach tightened so hard I thought I might be sick. Daniel said, "This is 22 seconds. It is included because my mother has claimed she never used this language about Aisha." He pressed play. Gloria's voice filled the room. "You think those papers mean something? Families are not courtrooms. By the time that girl is done with you, you will have nobody. Everyone already knows what kind of girl she is." The audio ended. No one moved. There are silences that are empty, and there are silences that are full of things arriving. This one was full. Every person in that room had to decide whether they were going to keep pretending the pattern was too blurry to see. Every person had to decide whether Gloria's tears were still enough, now that her own voice had entered evidence. Gloria stood very straight. For the first time all night, she did not speak immediately. Her eyes were on the screen, on the transcript of her own words. I watched the understanding moment begin, and it did not look like dramatic collapse. It looked like a woman reaching for a tool she had used her whole life and finding air. She turned to Daniel first because Daniel had always been the doorway back to safety. "Danny," she said. He flinched at the nickname. "This has gone far enough," she said. "Tell them." His voice was quiet. "Tell them what?" "Tell them this is not who I am." He looked at the screen, then at Mara, then at Sophia, then at me. "I don't think I can," he said. That was when her face changed all the way. "Not because of me. I need you to understand that. If I had exposed Gloria alone, she would have hated me and survived it. If Mara alone had spoken, Gloria would have called her emotional. If Sophia alone had spoken, Gloria would have called her bitter. But Daniel, her son, the person she had built her authority around protecting, had just refused to protect the lie. Gloria's mouth opened a little. She closed it. Her hand moved toward the pearls at her throat and stopped halfway. Aunt Patricia began to cry. "Gloria," she said, "is this true?" Gloria looked at her sister-in-law as if the question itself was obscene. "After all these years," Gloria said, "you are asking me that?" Patricia whispered, "Yes." That yes was small, but it landed like a door unlocking. Nico stood. "Did you tell me Aisha was trying to get Daniel to cut us off?" Gloria snapped, "She is. Look at this." "Did you tell me she took money?" I was concerned. "Did you see her take money?" Gloria's eyes flashed. "Do not interrogate me." There it was again. The old refusal. But the room had changed. Before, that line made people back away. Now it made them lean in. Daniel said, "Mom, answer him." She stared at her son, and I saw it. The exact second she realized no one was going to rescue her from the question. Not Patricia, not Daniel, not the cousins, not the old relatives who had always said Gloria meant well. The family had finally checked. Her face did something I had never seen it do. It loosened. Just for a second, all the performance dropped, and underneath was fear. Not fear of losing me, not fear of hurting Daniel. Fear of being seen without the story she had wrapped around herself for years. She looked at me then, and I knew she remembered the line she had just said. Everyone knows what kind of girl you are. I did not say it back. I wanted to. I had imagined saying it back. Everyone knows what kind of woman you are. It would have been clean. It would have been satisfying. It also would have given her a little piece of victimhood to hold up later. So I said nothing. That was harder. It was also better. Daniel spoke instead. Mom, he said, you told me I had to choose. Her or this family. You made that the choice. Not Aisha, you. Gloria whispered, I am your mother. I know. I raised you. I know. And this is how you repay me? Daniel's eyes were wet. His voice stayed steady. No. This is me not letting you keep hurting people and calling it love. Mara sat down suddenly, like her knees had given out. Sophia reached across the aisle and took her hand. Gloria looked around the room. Every face she turned to had changed. Some were angry, some ashamed, some stunned. The worst for her, I think, were the ones that looked disappointed. Gloria could handle opposition. Opposition made her powerful. Disappointment made her ordinary. She tried one last time. Aisha has manipulated all of you, she said. My mother stood. My mother is 5'3", wears reading glasses on a chain, and can make a room behave by clearing her throat. She had been silent all night. When she stood, I felt 8 years old and protected in a way I had not let myself feel for months. My daughter did not manipulate your words into your mouth, she said. You put them there. No one spoke. Gloria picked up her clutch. For a moment, I thought she might apologize, not because she felt sorry, because it was the last available exit with dignity. She could have said she was afraid of losing Daniel. She could have said she made mistakes. She could have said stress had made her cruel. It would not have fixed everything, but it would have been something human. Instead, she looked at Daniel and said, You will come back when she is done with you. Then she walked out. The door to the stairwell closed behind her with a soft metal click. No one followed. That was the sound of the old order ending. Not with yelling, not with a thrown drink, with nobody getting up to comfort her. For a few seconds, we all just sat there in the wreckage of what had been true 5 minutes earlier. Then Uncle Theo Sr. tapped his cane once on the floor and said, Well, I would like to see the dessert menu. People laughed because they needed to breathe. It was not a big laugh. It was shaky and relieved and a little horrified, but it broke the room open. Aunt Patricia came to me first. She looked smaller somehow, like the force that had been speaking through her had left, and she did not know what to do with her hands. Aisha, she said, I am so sorry. I nodded. Thank you. She started to explain. Gloria said she had proof, and I thought. I held up a hand gently. I can't do explanations tonight, but I accept the apology. She swallowed and nodded. Eleni came next, crying hard enough that her mascara had run. Nico apologized to Daniel, then to me, then to Mara. Several people avoided me completely, which was probably their version of shame. Sophia sat with my mother and drank coffee like a woman who had crossed a bridge and was not looking back. Daniel disappeared for 5 minutes. I found him on the small balcony off the upstairs hallway, standing in the cold without his jacket. City traffic moved below us. Somewhere downstairs, someone was laughing too loudly. Are you okay? I asked. He looked at me. No. I appreciated that. Do you regret it? He shook his head. I regret needing it. I stood beside him. After a while, he said, I am so sorry I made you prove it that much. That was the apology I had been waiting for. Not the one from Patricia. Not the fantasy one from Gloria. That one. I said, I know. He turned toward me. No, I need to say it. You showed me evidence, and I kept asking for a version that hurt less. I made that your problem. I won't do that again. The cold air stung my eyes. Okay. I mean it. I know. He took my hand. Are we still getting married tomorrow? I looked through the glass door at our families, messy and embarrassed and real. Mara was laughing at something Layla said. My father was talking to Daniel's father. Aunt Patricia was sitting alone, staring at her coffee. Gloria's empty chair was still at the center table, napkin folded beside a half-finished glass of wine. Yes, I said, but your mother is not coming. He nodded immediately. I already texted her. I blinked. When? Before I came out here, I told her she is no longer invited unless you personally ask for her there, and I know you won't, so that is that. For the first time that day, I smiled. That is that. That is that. The wedding happened the next afternoon. It rained in the morning, which would have delighted Gloria if she had been there to call it an omen. By noon, the clouds moved, and the courtyard smelled like wet brick and cut flowers. My dress had a tiny coffee stain on the inside hem because Layla spilled half a cup while helping me steam it. Daniel cried before I even reached the aisle. Mara stood on his side in a sage dress and held her bouquet like she had earned the right to be in photos nobody could rewrite. Gloria did not come. She did send a text to Daniel at 9:03 a.m. I hope one day you understand what you have done. He did not answer. At the reception there was an empty chair where she would have sat. Not at the head table. We had changed the seating chart at midnight because apparently spite can fuel administrative excellence. Her place card was removed. Aunt Patricia sat with Uncle Theo Sr. instead, and from what I heard later, he spent 20 minutes explaining that ramps are not optional if you want old people to attend things. People were careful with me that day. Some too careful, but they were kind. Eleni helped bustle my dress. Nico brought Daniel a drink and then stood there awkwardly until Daniel hugged him. Patricia danced with Mara and both of them cried. Sophia stayed until the last song. During dinner, my father leaned toward Daniel and said, In my family, when we have a problem, we talk directly. Loudly sometimes, but directly. You will learn. Daniel said, Yes, sir. My mother said, Do not scare him. My father said, I am not scaring him. I am orienting him. That was the first time I laughed without feeling the edge of the last year under it. The fallout did not end with the wedding, because families do not transform overnight just because a projector worked. For weeks, Gloria tried to rebuild. She called relatives individually. She said the presentation had been edited. She said I had manipulated Daniel while he was vulnerable. She said Mara had always resented her. She said Sophia was bitter. The difference was that now, people asked follow-up questions. Which part was edited? Can you send the full message? If Aisha stole money, where is the withdrawal? Why did you use the same phrase with Sophia? Questions were fatal to Gloria's method. Not because she could not lie under questioning. She could. But her power had depended on never being questioned at all. The first family event after the wedding was a birthday dinner for one of the cousins. Gloria arrived late. She expected, I think, to be absorbed back into the room by habit. Instead, people greeted her politely and went back to their conversations. No one moved seats to make her central. No one rushed to ask if she was okay. When she tried to bring up what happened at the rehearsal dinner, Aunt Patricia said, "Not tonight, Gloria," and turned back to the birthday girl. Mara told me about it afterward with a kind of stunned wonder. "She looked lost," Mara said. "Not sad. Lost. Like the room had been rearranged while she was gone." That was the real consequence. Not exile. Exile would have let Gloria become a martyr. The consequence was demotion. She was still family, technically. She still received group texts about logistics, but her words no longer arrived with automatic authority. They arrived like everyone else's, subject to checking. 3 months later, Daniel and I hosted a small dinner in our apartment. Mara came. Sophia came. Daniel's father came down from Vermont. Aunt Patricia came and brought a salad nobody asked for, but everyone ate. Gloria was not invited. Not because we had made a dramatic rule, because trust had not been rebuilt, and access is not a birthright. At one point, Mara stood in my kitchen holding a stack of plates and said, "Do you ever feel bad?" I knew what she meant. I thought about Gloria in her cream suit, saying everyone knew what kind of girl I was. I thought about Daniel's face in my kitchen as he read 42 entries. I thought about Sophia leaving family gatherings early because being slandered had become easier to escape than correct. I thought about Mara losing Colin and then being called difficult for bleeding where her mother had cut her. "Sometimes," I said, "but not guilty." Mara nodded. "Yeah, that's the difference." Daniel and I are still married. We are not perfect, because nobody who survives a family mess walks out polished. We had to learn how to argue without dragging Gloria's shadow into the room. He had to learn that a boundary is not a betrayal. I had to learn that being believed late still hurts, even when it finally happens. We did more counseling. We wrote rules for family contact like boring adults with calendars. Holidays are calmer now, smaller, and honestly, better. Gloria sends cards sometimes. The first one said, "I forgive you." Daniel returned it unopened. The second one said, "I miss my son." He kept that one in a drawer for a week, then threw it away. The third arrived on our first anniversary. It had a printed message about love enduring all things, and under it she wrote, "In time, truth always comes out." I laughed when I saw that. Not a big laugh, just enough. Because for once, she was right. Truth had come out. It came out in invoices and texts, in old screenshots and a 22-second voicemail, in a daughter's shaking voice and an ex-aunt's tired one, in a room where people finally stopped treating confidence as proof. It came out because the woman who believed no one would ever check her claims kept handing me little pieces of the record. And every time I look back at the wedding photos, I notice one picture from the reception that I did not appreciate at first. It is not the kiss. It is not the first dance. It is a candid shot near the dessert table. Mara is laughing with Sophia. Daniel is behind me with his hand on my waist. Aunt Patricia is in the background, looking a little embarrassed but present. And in the center of the frame, on a small table by the door, is the seating chart we changed at midnight. There is no place card for Gloria, just a clean white space where her name used to be.